In this video, I'm going to show you each and every setting that you need to know in order to capture the best quality footage with the Insta360 X4 Air. I'm going to go through key general settings as well as the best settings for each and every mode. By the end of this video, you're going to be well equipped to capture footage you love with this camera. So first of all, we're going to swipe down from the top, and there are a couple settings here that we want to set. So we're going to go up here and click on this gear icon in the upper right. First thing we want to do is we want to go down here to image settings, and there are a couple key settings here you want to set. First one is video encoding. Make sure that's set to efficiency H.265. And then a really important one here is bitrate. That's going to start off at standard, but you don't want standard. You want to select high. High is going to ensure you get the very highest quality footage with the X4 Air. And then down here at video sharpness, in most cases, you're going to want to set this to low, especially if you're in a forest like I am right here, or if you're in a field, anything that has a lot of texture to it, like grass, leaves, trees, you want to set this to low. Otherwise, things are going to look overly sharpened and it's not going to look good. But if you're in a wide open area or you're on the ocean or on a beach, something like that, then I recommend medium for those type of settings. But whatever you do, don't set high here. High is going to be way too sharp and you're not going to like how the footage looks. And then before you get started, make sure to do the gyroscope calibration. So you're going to go down there, you're going to click start on it, and it's just going to calibrate that to make sure all the stabilization is keyed in and working properly. And then after you've done that, you are good to go. We're going to go back to the main screen and we're going to start with the video mode here. And I'm starting with video because chances are most of you are going to use the video mode most often on this camera. So these are the settings I recommend for getting the best quality video from the X4 Air. Click down here and go to 8K 30. You want to get the highest quality from this. And then over here, make sure adaptive tone is turned on. Adaptive tone is going to give you that good dynamic range, and it's going to bring out as many details as possible in both the highlights and the shadows. And then after you've keyed in those settings, we want to swipe in from the right, and we want to adjust some of the key settings down here. So first of all, this one right here, this is portrait mode. We're going to keep that off by default. And then for the EV, with this camera, it actually does a really good job handling the exposure. Even when I had it pointing at sunlight, as you can see in these samples, it did a great job on that hike on a very sunny morning. And for the white balance, it's going to start off at auto, but you're going to want to set this to M. You want to do a static white balance. And if you're filming during the daytime, set this to 5600K. It's going to be a perfect white balance for the day. If you're filming at sunset, go to 6600K. And then if you're filming in low light or at nighttime, go to 3800K. The jitter blur reduction, this is going to mainly only apply if you're filming in low light or at nighttime. So generally, I recommend keeping this set to off. But if you are going to be going into some dark woods or something like that, I do recommend turning it on. It's going to help your footage avoid that jitter that is common when using electronic image stabilization, which flow state is a form of that, and you're going to see that jitter anytime your shutter speed's below about 1/200. And those are the key settings for the 360 mode. But I did want to go back here and I wanted to show you the single lens mode as well so that you have those settings too. So on the X4 Air, you can go all the way up to 4K 60 in the single lens mode. So if you do want to do anything with a little bit of slow-mo, if you do 4K 60, you can slow it down to 50% or 2x slow-mo on a 30 frames per second timeline. But if you just want to do standard 4K 30, you can do that here as well. And of course, if you want 4K 24, also an option. But I do recommend staying in the 4K mode at all times. That's going to give you the best quality. And then for the settings over here, I recommend being in Mega View. Mega View is going to give you that widest perspective, but it also does a good job of minimizing distortion. I like how that mode looks. And then over here, these settings you're pretty much gonna keep set at auto. But for the footage look, I do like to do standard for the color. And then for the white balance, just set that to the manual values like I already mentioned in the 360 mode. And then for this one, I do recommend keeping the face priority mode on. It's going to do a good job in single lens mode. Anytime your face is in there or someone else's, it's going to prioritize the exposure of the face. And those are the settings there. So we're gonna go back to 360 mode now. And next we are going to go to InstaFrame mode. All right, so the InstaFrame mode, this allows you to capture both a 16:9 flat video, but it also allows you to capture a 360 video at the same time. So you get the best of both worlds. But what you want to do down here is first of all, you want to set the 360 resolution as high as it can go, which in this case is 6K 30. And then secondly, for the InstaFrame video resolution, you want to set that to 1080p. 1080p is the highest you can go. But then you have different options here. You can do horizon lock for your perspective. You also can do the front, you can do the top, you can do the bottom, and you can do the custom view. Now in general, I keep the rear view unless I'm filming myself. I like that for this mode. But then I do recommend turning on the distortion correction as well. I like that set to on. That's going to give you the best looking footage in the 1080p mode. But you of course can choose the perspective depending on what you're looking to film. And once you've keyed that in, you're going to want to swipe in from the right and you want to set these. Down here, everything you can keep at defaults except for white balance. Go ahead and set that to the manual value like we talked about earlier. Next mode is the time-lapse mode. Time-lapse mode I love on this camera. It does a good job, just like all of the other Insta360 cameras. So first of all, you can go to as high as 8K and you can do 30 frames per second. And then for your interval down here, you want to adjust this depending on what you're capturing. If you're doing a sunset time-lapse and you're gonna be doing for like an hour or so, I recommend 2 seconds. If you're doing an all-day time-lapse, you might wanna do 5 seconds or 10 seconds. So we're gonna swipe in from the right. And these settings here, if you're doing a daytime time-lapse, one setting I recommend changing is change the EV value to -0.3. This is gonna be especially useful if you're capturing anything with clouds or the sky. It's going to help ensure that sky doesn't overexpose on you. And then for the white balance, if you're doing something like a sunset time-lapse, set that to a manual value and do 6600K. If you're doing a time-lapse during the daytime, do 5600K. And then over here for the balance exposure, just keep that set to auto. The X4 Air is going to do a good job auto detecting that. Next mode is TimeShift. TimeShift is essentially a moving time-lapse. So this mode is pretty easy. Do the 8K 30 because you want to get the highest quality. And then for the speed, I recommend doing auto. The X4 Air is going to automatically adjust the speed really well in the TimeShift. So I like keeping it at auto, it makes it simple. And then if we toggle in from the right, once again, just change the white balance to static value. It really is a key setting and it's going to get you the best results in pretty much every mode on here. Next mode, if you want to do loop recording, this mode, you can of course choose your loop duration up here. And that's really gonna depend on how much of a loop duration you want. I usually just keep it at the default of 3 minutes. But then all of these settings here, I'm going to keep them at their defaults, except for the white balance. Once again, we're gonna go to the manual value. And if you're using road mode, what you wanna do is you want to allocate the portion of the SD card for space for that. So this is basically going to be if you're using your X4 Air as a dash cam. So when we click next, you can go up here and you can adjust how much of it you want, which is totally up to you. You can drag this and it's going to tell you how much loop duration you'll have depending on how much space you use. So drag that accordingly and then click the check mark when you're done. And then this is going to ask you if you want it to charge and record when you have it plugged in. I recommend doing that because if you have it plugged in your car via USB-C and it's hooked to a plug in your car, it's going to help keep your camera charged while it's recording. And I do recommend doing the timestamp watermarking as well because that is useful for a dash cam in case you need any of that video footage later on for something specific. And then for the quality, I recommend doing 8K 30. Then over here for the settings, I actually recommend keeping all of these set to their auto defaults here. And the reason for that is when you're driving, white balance is a little bit different. If you're going in and out of different locations, the white balance can vary a lot, especially if you're going through tunnels, things like that. So it's best just to keep the white balance at auto for this mode. And then we've got a dedicated Starlapse mode here, which is really nice. And what I like to do is I like to first of all do the Starlapse video, but it is worth noting you can also do the star trails photo. So you're gonna get a single photo at the end where you have all of those star trails from the entirety of the duration you filmed. But if you do Starlapse video, once you set it to 29 megapixels and then put it at infinity here. But then make sure you have a timer up here. I usually set it to 5 seconds. That way, once you hit record here, it gives 5 seconds for the camera to stop wobbling because you don't want it to wobble with a night lapse because it's going to blur and not look good starting off. After you've done that, toggle in from the right. And one of the keys here, it's probably gonna start at auto, but you actually wanna click M here for manual. And as you can see, this is super overexposed in the daytime. You do not want this mode for daytime, you want this only for nighttime. What I recommend doing is if you're trying to capture the stars or the Milky Way in a very dark area, do 30 seconds for the shutter speed. If you are in an urban area, you generally can go down to about 10 seconds to 5 seconds because you've got quite a bit of light in the city. But in general, I'm getting the stars, so I like to do 30 seconds there. And then for the ISO, I recommend putting this to 800 for the night lapse. It's going to be a good ISO without introducing too much noise and grain into your video. And then for the white balance, I recommend setting this to manual, and I recommend changing that to 3800K for a night lapse. It's going to do a really good job for you. It's going to have the proper colors for nighttime. And then once you've keyed those in, that mode, the Starlapse mode, is good to go as well. And then the next mode is burst. And this is essentially if you want to take several photos at once. So I recommend, of course, doing the highest quality resolution. And for the format, pure shot is your only option. So pure shot it is. And then down here, you have options like 10 pictures per second, 10 pictures in 3 seconds, 10 pictures in 6 seconds, or 10 pictures in 10. Personally, my favorite is the 10 pictures in 3 seconds. That is a good interval, and it's especially good if you have people in your photo and you want to try to catch everybody with their eyes open. Chances are one of those 10 photos will have that. And then it is worth noting there's a timer up here, so if you need to hit the timer and then run to get behind the camera, you can adjust this, and you can go from 15 seconds all the way down to off. I usually keep it at 5 seconds there. I find that is good in most cases. For the settings over here, you've got a couple different options, but I recommend keeping all of these set to auto. Those are going to serve you well. And then we've got interval mode here, which basically interval mode is simply going to take a photo at a set interval. So what I like to do for this mode, if you're going to use it, do the highest resolution. For the duration, I recommend doing infinity. You can stop and start it when you want to. And for the format up here, if you care about having a high quality photo later on to do a lot of editing with, do pure shot plus raw. So if you don't have any desire to edit any of those interval photos later on, do pure shot. Up here is where you can set your interval. So you can go as slow as 3 seconds, all the way up to as long as 120 seconds between each photo. So I recommend setting that accordingly, depending on what interval you want, depending on what you're trying to capture. And then swiping in from the right, I recommend keeping all of these set to auto. That's going to work well in this mode. And then finally, the photo mode right here. This is going to be for those single shot photos. You want to make sure you have it in the highest quality resolution. And then I recommend pure shot plus raw for this. If there's any chance you're going to want to edit those photos later on, which often I do like to. I like to do a little bit more advanced grading on those in something like Lightroom. So I keep it to pure shot plus raw. And then if you want the HDR photo, you also can select on for that. And you also can do AEB, which is that exposure bracketing. So it's going to take a longer shooting time, of course, and you do want to have your camera stationary for that. It's going to give you a DNG file and it's going to stack those. So it's going to underexpose a couple of the photos, it's going to overexpose a couple, and then it's going to do a proper exposure, and it's going to stack those and get the best of all of those exposures for a well-balanced, high dynamic range photo. So if you want that, if you're doing something in tricky lighting where you have a lot of bright highlights and dark shadows, I do recommend doing the AEB. It's going to produce a really good looking photo. And then I recommend keeping these settings set to auto. And if you'd like to learn more about how to get the very best out of the Insta360 X4 Air, check out this playlist right here.